We're good? Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, I want to welcome to our town hall at Cambridge Community Association. I'm Taylor Bulstrode, I'm one of the co-executive directors here. We're excited to have you here to hear our candidates and learn more about what our future might look like. Just some housekeeping things. The bathrooms are along the wall over here. There's an exit right here, and then there's an exit right behind you as well. Okay? I will do our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on the Haldeman tract, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Shawanoon people. We recognize the enduring presence and contribution of Indigenous communities in the region. As we gather here, we are committed to learning from the past and working towards respectful relationships and a more inclusive future. I do want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The first is Citizens for Cambridge. Thank you for bringing this idea to us. You are truly amazing advocates for the Cambridge community, and we appreciate you rallying for our community to learn more about what's going on and how we can better connect. I'd also like to acknowledge the CNO. There's 8 neighborhood associations spread across Cambridge. I would really encourage you folks to connect with your neighborhood association. There's many programs and services that you can connect to in those spaces. I'd also like to give a shout out to Galt Jazz for providing equipment for the meeting today and managing it. Thank you to Dave. Thank you, Dave Albright and Drew Wilson. As you may know, Galt Jazz is downtown Galt once a month, the last Sunday of every month, so go and check them out. And then finally, I'd like to say a big thank you to Waterloo Region Community Foundation for being a part of this event and helping us promote it. I'd like to now pass it on to Dan for some further words.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yes, if I hold it up here. Thank you very much. I want to thank the community associations, Cambridge, Taylor, where'd she go? She went walking off. And Eric Abner from the Waterloo Region Community Foundation. We've had a lot of help to get this started. And thanks to the city, because this is city property that we're on, as you may know. I want to let everybody know that this meeting is being recorded, and I want to thank my friend Mark and Miles right here, who are recording it for Citizens for Cambridge. And there are other cameras I see around, a bit of media around, so if you're nervous at all about being in a camera shot or something, there's not much we can do about that. We're just let everybody know that it's happening. And the recording from this meeting will be accessible through our website within the next couple days. So if you visit citizensforcambridge.org on the web, you will find the recording for this meeting within the next couple of days. If you're not on our email list or you don't think you are, just jot your email address down at the back table, and we'll let you know when the recording is available. There's also recordings for the Hespeler Town Hall and the Rogers TV debates and a bunch of other worthwhile items. These same candidates that we're seeing here tonight already participated in a debate, a Rogers TV debate, that is available now on our website. And we'll be hearing more about that a bit later. When planning this town hall and the one in Hespeler on Thursday, we wondered what the interest would be from the public. And I just want to give you a big shout out. You should congratulate yourself. It's terrific to see the turnout. It really does make it very, very worthwhile. After the meeting, we'd really appreciate some feedback of what you liked or disliked about the evening. You can talk to anybody that's wearing one of these badges. We do plan to do this again. We're doing it on Thursday, of course. But we are looking to do better, make it a better experience for both candidates and the audience alike. So please give us some feedback or encouragement particularly would be helpful. We have 2 objectives this evening. One is to provide the candidates an opportunity to engage with residents in a larger group. Have a chance to actually talk to a larger group of residents. So That's one of our objectives, is to give these candidates an opportunity to communicate with you as a group, and that's objective number one. Objective number two involves giving you an opportunity to hear from them. So where are you going to go and hear from these individuals in one shot, and use that to make decisions that you feel good about on voting day. Hopefully we all sincerely appreciate and respect the candidates. They are making a huge commitment that most of us would not want to tackle. I mean, let's face it, it's a tough job and a tough go. But finally, we need your help. I'm sure you noticed the rules and security measures when you came in. We have zero tolerance tonight for disruptive behavior or protesting during the meeting. Please avoid clapping or cheering during the meeting. In a minute when I introduce them, you can clap then, and at the end when we're finished. But hopefully not in between. If necessary, the meeting will be suspended if there is disruption until any offenders leave the building. So the zero tolerance hopefully tells the whole story, so help us out with that. Our moderator today for today's town hall is Dr. Scott Hamilton. He has a PhD in political science. He's probably certainly more qualified than any of us are to be doing this, so we look forward to Scott being our moderator for the evening. Right now we'd like to welcome the candidates from the Green Party, Lux Burgess. Lima, and from the Liberal Party, Incumbent, Bryan May,
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Can everyone in the back hear us okay? Talk, just blowing your thumbs up. Excellent. So as Dan mentioned, my name is Scott Hamilton. I'm here because I have a PhD in political science, and locally I was the Banting postdoctoral fellow at the Valsilli School of International Affairs at Florida University. So I spent a few years as an adjunct professor teaching international security, environmental security, political philosophy. And let me tell you, the issues that our federal candidates are facing, they're not just local, they're at a global scale. So it's an honor to be here and be your moderator tonight. And also in 2019, I was in their shoes. I was inspired to run federally. I do not have a political affiliation anymore. I haven't for 6 years. I'm a resident of Cambridge, and the way that I decide my political candidates is by thinking critically, looking at the best parties, the best platforms, and the best local candidates, and coming to events like this and asking them questions. So I just want to say thank you for every single person that's in attendance tonight, exercising your democratic right, your democratic will to come and ask questions from your local candidates to select the best local representative and the best party for you. That's the first step, and I wish every resident in Cambridge were as passionate as everyone in this room. We do know with disappointment, unfortunately, that our Conservative MP candidate has declined to participate, so an empty stool has been placed at the very end to acknowledge her candidacy. And we do recognize that individual members of Parliament do not set policy. However, tonight we do want to hear what you personally intend to advocate for within your Parliament, your party, and of course within Cambridge. So the debate format, just so we know the ground rules as we go forward, the discussion format really. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, 1 minute to respond to each question. So every candidate will get the same question, the same amount of time. And at the very end of the evening, when 8:30 rolls around or earlier, if they're exhausted or out of questions, there will be 1 minute for a closing statement. Candidates may request a 30-second rebuttal just by raising their hand. Again, just 30 seconds. But there's no infinite rebuttals. We don't want to go on all night. We have 1 rebuttal. Got it? And speaking order is going to begin alphabetically by surname and rotate throughout the event. And we have to enforce these time limits just to ensure we cover as many of these debate topics as possible. So we'll begin with 10 questions submitted by residents via email. Once we've gone through those, no later than 7:45 p.m., we will open the floor to audience questions. If you do have a question around 7:45, we kindly ask you to form a line around the back. We'll have someone give you a microphone, just so it's not chaos trying to get a microphone around the room. So if you have those questions around 7:45, 7:45, you can line up, and we'll be sure that our candidates can answer those for you. Following this, when the event ends, residents are welcome to stay, mingle, chat with the candidates, ask any questions you have. Again, they're here for you to learn where they stand on the issues that matter the most to you, your families, and our city. But please note, at 9 p.m. we do have to vacate the building, which is especially kind to let us stay here. So from 8:33, when the closing remarks ends at 9, you can mingle, but at 9 we have to go. So, why don't we begin with our opening statements just before we get into the residents' questions. The way we're going to proceed now, we'll start with Lux Burgess, we'll continue with Jose de Lima, and then we'll have Bryan May deliver his statement. So, Lux, the floor is yours for your opening statement. Thank you. Your 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Scott. And I just want to say a special thank you to Citizens for Cambridge for hosting this event. It's a pretty important event in our democracy, and I'm happy that you're all here today. It's such a good crowd. I just want to say, first of all, that I'm not a good public speaker, so I may be speaking quickly and try and listen faster so you can hear what I'm saying. I will try to slow down a bit for you, as my friends in the front row are pointing at me and telling me to slow down. Secondly, I'm just a guy that lives around the corner from here. I live in East Gulf. This is my neighborhood. My kids go to Chalmers and Moffat, so I'm very familiar with this neighborhood, and I'm just here because I want to represent you. I want to represent green voices in Cambridge. I'm here because I believe in sustainability, equality, and most of all, community. We've had a lot of back and forth between Conservatives and Liberals over the past few decades, and I think it's time for a change. And the Green Party has answers to that. So Cambridge, today I'm here to tell you, if you want change, now's the time to vote for it. Thanks.
Thank you, Lex. Well said. You stayed well below our time limit, so well done. Next up, we'll have Jose de Lima from the NDP. Jose?
Just checking everybody can hear me. Good evening. My name is Jose de Lima. I'm running to be your next member of Parliament. I want to thank Citizens for Cambridge, the Community and Neighborhood Associations, and the Waterloo Region Community Foundation for strengthening our democracy in this way and providing us an opportunity to be neighbors together in this opportunity. I'm ready to be your next member of Parliament because the issues that we are facing as a country need bold solutions, and that is the proposal that the NDP is putting forward this election. You know, I have experienced firsthand Cambridge's farm-raising spirit, that commitment and devotion to lending a helping hand and lifting our neighbors up when my family needed. And I am taking that fight and that spirit to the House of Commons if you trust me with your vote and elect me to serve. This community deserves leadership, and we deserve community voices coming together to lead on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Next up, we have Bryan May, Liberals.
Thank you, Scott. Again, thank you to Citizens for Cambridge. Thank you to Cambridge for hosting us. For the last 10 years, it has been my professional honor to serve this community. I have served this community long before I was a member of Parliament with organizations like the YMCA, University of Waterloo, Boys and Girls Club. And for me, this role is an extension of that service. I'm very proud of the work that I have done and what our government has done over the last 10 years. We brought in programs like the Canada Child Benefit. We've brought in programs like $10 a day child care. We focused on affordable housing right here in Cambridge. We've supported small businesses and large businesses alike, and we need to continue to do that work. We're faced with an existential threat of the reality that we have with a new relationship to our greatest friend and trading partner, the United States. This is an incredibly challenging program. We need strong leadership moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. Again, thank you to all the candidates. Economic stability and long-term growth. Where are those questions? They were covered today during the Rogers TV debate, so you will find each candidate's answers online. But if you do want answers tonight, again, feel free to come back, ask it live when we have the microphone at 7:45. But if you're wondering why none of the questions selected answered any of those topics, it's because they were already covered. They will be readily available to everyone here. So now we'll focus on the 10 additional questions provided by email that go beyond those topics covered, and they do reflect the key priorities raised by our community. So the first question will go to Jose. And again, this question will be answered by every single candidate. Jose, this has to do with your future vision for Cambridge and your role as an MP. So what is your personal vision for the future of Cambridge? And how would you use your role as a member of Parliament to help bring that vision to life? Are there any specific priorities you would champion for our community at the federal level?
Thank you for the question, and I'm privileged to spend my time as someone who works in the nonprofit sector, building the Cambridge of our dreams and making sure that everyone in the city has a place to call home. Making sure that people have access to healthcare when they need it, making sure that people have access to the supports that they need. The Cambridge of my dreams is one where we don't just survive, but we thrive. And so as your member of Parliament, I would fight to bring electoral reform and work with other parties to make that promise a priority. I would fight to increase affordable housing because we have seen, as per last year's point-in-time count, homelessness in this region has reached over 2,300 people. I would fight to ensure that community has spaces like this, and so strengthening non-profit work, but also strengthening community organizations and neighborhood associations so that they can continue the work that they do, and also strengthening healthcare right here at home, like the ones we have at Langs and all of the services that they provide.
Thank you, Jose. Next up, we'll go to Bryan.
Test. There we go. Okay. Thank you, Scott. Look, I have lived this for 10 years. The work that I'm doing is to, in fact, support this community through whether it's affordable housing, whether it's through supports for small, medium-sized businesses. On the affordable housing side, I couldn't agree with Jose more. We absolutely need to focus more energy on affordable housing. But what have we done? We've built 175 Hesper Road. We built 1 Hesper Road. We focused on our co-ops and making sure that they had the investments they needed to maintain those facilities. We doubled the size of Kirkwood Apartments in Ayr, which is specific to seniors housing. But I'm incredibly excited about Mark Carney's vision for Canada when it comes to housing. The doubling of housing in this country to 500,000 new homes, having the government be the developer moving forward is what we need to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. Lux?
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, my vision for the community as the Green Party, I think the first thing I want to focus on is the environment. And when I think about the environment here in Cambridge, one of our major things is transportation and the lack of affordable transportation in this area. We have to get better public transit. We have to get that direct GO transit route. We have to get that train down to this end of the city. Besides transit, I think focusing on the local economy is probably one of my major priorities. One of the big Green Party platforms right now is focusing on local economy, building local economies, building that local green economy. So as your MP, I would focus on that and bringing that money into this region and building up new green businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Lux. Our next question that was submitted has to do with accessibility and disability. And this will be covered with by Bryan May first. The question reads, over 6 million Canadians live with a disability and continue to face barriers in areas like transportation, employment, healthcare, housing, and civic participation. If elected, what actions will you take to advance accessibility and inclusion, and how do you plan to strengthen or build on the Accessible Canada Act? In a time of increasing polarization, how would you ensure the rights and dignity of Canadians with disabilities are protected?
Well, first of all, I am incredibly excited to get this question. This is something that I've been very passionate about for a long time. I was actually part of the consultation process through the YMCA when the province of Ontario went through this. I was the chair of the Standing Committee of Human Resources, Skills and Social Development, and the Status of People with Disability when the Barrier Free Canada Act became law. In fact, it was the work that we did in that committee that made that a better law. We amended it 75 times. And we recognize the challenges that people still have when it comes to accessibility. I have advocated and delivered on accessible grants, not just in municipal buildings, public buildings, non-for-profit organizations, churches. This is absolutely something that I will continue to advocate for. for it. It is something that we should all strive to have a barrier-free Canada in this country. I know there's incredible advocates like Jerry Roberts, I think is in this room right now, who will make sure that I stay the course on that issue. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Bryan. Next up, we'll go to Lux.
Yeah, the Green Party absolutely stands with those with disabilities. I think what I want to touch on here right now is the Green Party's plan for a guaranteed livable income. One of the things that I've heard from those with disabilities is that it's just, the affordability right now for those with disabilities is just not there. There's such a, not enough funding and just such a mishmash of funding for people with disabilities. The guaranteed livable income the Green Party is proposing will solve all of that and just guarantee that those with disabilities have enough funding to get through life. Thank you.
Thank you, Lux. Last up, we have Jose.
So we have to understand that right now in Canada, there's about 1 million Canadians that live with a disability that are living in poverty. And so the NDP plan puts forward the proposal to double the disability tax credit, but also it speaks to the work that we did on dental care and pharmacare. Because unfortunately there are people who live with a disability in our communities, and seniors and families, who are having to make the decisions of whether they can afford groceries and their medications. And so giving people access to pharmacare is one of the ways that we can tackle the affordability crisis that people are feeling, but also we need to make sure that we can strengthen programs like pharmacare. So doubling the disability tax credit, making sure that we enhance accessibility, making sure that we create more accessible transit, but also I believe in the notion of nothing about us without us. And so it's reaching out to community members. It's reaching out to organizations like Barrier Free Cambridge to make sure that we're doing the work that they need to see from us.
Thank you, Jose. The third question of the night pertains to mental health, and we're going to start with Lux on this one. The question reads, mental health has long been underrepresented in Canada's universal health care system. Many people can't access the care they need unless they can afford private options or have extended insurance. These are resources that many don't have. Do you believe mental health care should be fully integrated into our public health care system? And if so, what steps would you take to move in that direction?
Yeah, this is a simple one for me. The simple answer is yes. We absolutely, as the Green Party, believe that mental health care should be part of Canada's public health care system. This is a key part of our platform to integrate it into the public health care system and make sure that all mental health care is covered under Canada's health plans. Thanks. That's a simple one.
Great, thanks, Lux. Now we'll move down to Bryan.
Thank you. This is a little more complex than I think a simple yes or no. Obviously, we want mental health to be supported by universal health care. If I can go back in time for a minute and remind folks that when I was elected in 2015, the health accord had been allowed to die on the vine by the Stephen Harper government. We did not have an agreement, we did not have a contract with the provinces to transfer any funds when we were first elected. And one of the first priorities of our government was to reestablish the health accord. What we added to that was $5.6 billion, a rider, if you will, that required the provinces to spend that $5.6 billion on mental health supports and home care. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. That wasn't constitutional. The provinces let us know that. They accepted it, but it wasn't constitutional. I can transfer funds to the province. It's the province that decides how to spend it. Now, we all need to focus on that. We all need to encourage our provincial counterparts to focus on mental health. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Bryan. Jose?
So I am between Lux and Bryan, and I think I'm going to say yes from what Lux said. Yes, we believe that we should have head-to-toe health care. And then you ask, but how do we do it? How do we get there, right? And I think we are very privileged to live in Cambridge, a community that's already doing it, and I get to see the work of implementing healthcare as part of a person's circle of care in a public system every single day at work. And so in Cambridge, we have access to interprofessional community teams, IPC teams, and they bring not just primary health care, but they also bring mental health care, and they also bring street outreach. So we need to tackle mental health. There are people, unfortunately, in this country waiting up to a couple of years to see a counselor, to get an ADHD diagnosis, or to get the mental health that they need. And so for us, it's using the systems that are already in place, using the supports that we already have to then tackle the issue.
Perfect, thank you, Jose. Our fourth question that was submitted, you may as well stay standing, Jose, this one's going to you. The next one is on GDP and government debt. The question reads, Canada's economy hasn't kept pace with other countries. Over the past decade, our GDP per capita growth has fallen behind most of the 38 countries in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD. And at the same time, our federal debt has nearly doubled. So what will your government do to reverse this trend, grow the economy in a way that benefits everyday Canadians, and manage the rising federal debt responsibly?
I think we need to add a little bit of context there. Part of the reason why those numbers are the way that they are is because 5 years ago, we did enter into a global pandemic, and so the government had to step up and make sure that its citizens were taken care of. When we look at deficit and budget and the financial reality of our government, we have to ask ourselves, who is the government governing for? I'm running to be your next member of parliament to go to Ottawa and fight and help create budgets and make legislation that fights for working and middle-class Canadians. A budget is a moral document that shows the ways in which the government wants to lead the country. And so when we talk about managing that responsibly, it's about making sure that we're supporting people. Because now is not the time for cuts. We have seen other parties, and I wish that it was for candidates on this stage tonight, but we have seen other parties talk about cuts. And unfortunately, when parties talk about cuts, it means that we don't get the care or the help or the supports and services that we need while the government keeps running the way that it is. And so we need to make sure that we build a budget that is focused on workers. We need to tackle tariffs and Trump's threats, but also we need to make sure that you're working to be financially responsible for workers, not for corporations and big developers.
All right, thank you, Jose. Next up, we'll go to Lux.
Thanks, Scott. One of the things that I always think about when we talk about this kind of budgetary question is that people frequently forget that the Green Party comes from conservative roots. And when I say that, I mean fiscally conservative. Elizabeth May started from the Conservative Party before she branched off into the Greens. And that's really the kind of, the kind of thought that we have at the Green Party. We want to do all of these things that I've been talking about, the guaranteed livable income and supporting healthcare. What we want to do is so that it makes sense financially. I'm not talking about the chainsaw of efficiency here. I'm talking about finding, actual government cuts that we can do to make programs efficient. Again, like the guaranteed livable income would be a combination of other disability benefits and low-income benefits. As far as broadening our economy, the Green Party has a huge plan to develop a green economy in Canada, to bring green industry to Canada, to move away from oil and gas to focus on actual clean energy. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Lux. And next up, we have Bryan.
Thank you, Scott. Teamwork makes the dream work. All right. First of all, I wonder if we could reset the clock there, but first of all, I have some challenges with the question itself. So I've heard these arguments, I've heard the stats about GDP, I've heard the stats about per capita. They're flawed. They're incredibly flawed. The fact is Canada has done very well over the last 10 years in terms of GDP growth. Just to put it into perspective, over the 10 years, Stephen Harper hit less than 0.5% GDP growth over that time. Ours is well over almost 2%. It's 1.6, 1.7% over the same period of time. And to Jose's point, yes, we dealt with a global pandemic and we invested in supporting Canadians. And I've sat across from the Conservatives that are yelling at us for the last 2.5 years saying, well, the debt is too high, the debt is too high. But they never tell you what they would not have spent money on. They never tell you that they wouldn't have done the SEBA loans for small business, or the CERB payments to keep people from starving, or 75% wage subsidy so people could stay in their jobs, or backstopping the banks so that you didn't lose your mortgage. These are the types of things that we needed to focus on during that time, and I am not looking back and regretting that one little bit.
Great, thank you, Bryan. Just checking, everyone can still hear us okay? The fan's not too loud? We're good? Awesome. Thumbs up at the back. So we're now on to our fifth question. This one will be given to Bryan May first, and this has to do with gender-affirming care. And so there's a growing debate in Canada, the question reads, about access to gender-affirming care for minors. What is your position on whether these decisions should be made by families and healthcare providers, and what role, if any, should the government play in setting limits or protections around this type of care?
So I know this, well, that's much better. I know that this is a very controversial issue. I will say right here, right now, I am not the expert in the room. Very few politicians have the credentials to be able to answer that question properly. What we need to make sure is that we have surrounded ourselves with the best and the brightest to make sure that we have legislation that works for everybody. What I am very concerned about is what we are seeing in real time in the United States right now. We are seeing an abandonment of diversity, inclusion, and acceptance of people, regardless of their choice of who they love. That is scary to me. That is scary, and the speed in which that has been reversed, especially at the corporate level, tells me that it was never real. And I think that we have to be very wary, we have to be very focused on that, because we're talking about people that are struggling. We're talking about people that need compassion through this process, whatever that may be. And I think that our government focused on that very early on. We enshrined trans rights into civil rights. And we did that right out of the gate. And we needed to make sure that people feel safe. And that's going to continue to be the focus of our government.
Great, thank you, Bryan. And next we'll hear from Jose, excuse me.
We are seeing it in real time, not just in the United States, but even earlier today I had the opportunity to go to the Catholic School Board, where a decision is going to be made on election day as to whether pride flags, Every Child Matter flags, and other politically charged materials are going to be allowed in our children's schools. And the only reason why I stand before you today is because when I went to school at both Catholic and public schools, I had a pride flag to look at, and I had a poster that said, "This is a safe space." So this is something that deals with giving our children, but giving our community the reality of being a space where everyone can belong. And so as politicians, it is easy to say, I know all of the answers, but as Bryan pointed out, sometimes we don't. And so it is up to us to be able to talk to the people that know the answers, but also understand that this isn't about a wedge issue. This is about people having the ability to live a life of dignity.
Great, thank you, Jose. Next up, Lux.
Yeah, I think I would echo both of what Bryan and Jose said, that this is not an issue that any of us can address. This is an issue that needs to be addressed by the families and the parents and the caregivers. But the Green Party stands unequivocally with LGBTQ youth. We believe that they deserve to be who they are, deserve to live with dignity, safety, and full equality. And we're committed to strengthening protections against discrimination and improving access to inclusive healthcare and ensuring that LGBTQ youth feel supported in schools and communities. We will always continue to fight for transgender rights and for non-binary Canadians, including better access to gender-affirming care and ID that reflects their identity. The Green Party is working to build a Canada where everyone can live freely and authentically.
Great, thank you, Lux. We are halfway through our audience-submitted questions, and once in a while I do hear a candidate saying, you know what, I don't know about that question, I disagree with that question. Good thing they were submitted by you, so go talk to these candidates right after this town hall ends. What are you critiquing my question for? But we will move on to question 6, and this will be answered first by Lux, and this pertains to seniors' health care. Question reads, many seniors lose their extended health benefits upon retirement, and public coverage doesn't always fill the gap. What will your party do to help ensure seniors can access comprehensive and affordable health benefits, such as prescription drugs, physiotherapy, massage therapy, and vision care? What will you do to ensure they can access these health benefits when they need it the most?
Yeah, a couple of things there. I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but again, I'm going to point to our guaranteed livable income plan. As seniors, this is one of the things I've heard from seniors out when I've been knocking on doors and in seniors' homes, is that seniors just don't have enough money to cover everything. And the Green Party's guaranteed livable income will fix that. We also plan to bring in a national pharmacare plan to make pharmaceuticals affordable for seniors. Thanks.
Thank you, Lux. I'm going in a clockwise direction from my perspective, so next up we'll have Bryan and then Jose. Bryan?
Thank you, and this really comes down to a question of seniors' affordability issues, and I can tell you nothing has been taken more seriously over the last 10 years than supporting seniors. One of the very first things we did was reverse the incredibly stupid conservative decision to raise retirement age to 67. And that's not me saying that, that's some of my conservative colleagues coming to me to say, yeah, we didn't really understand that either. That one action, lowering it back down to 65, stopped over 100,000 seniors from falling into poverty. We know that we need to continue to focus on that. That's why we've brought in programs like dental, universal dental for seniors, pharmacare for all is absolutely where we're heading. And I know that seniors feel the pinch of affordability in a more acute way because of their fixed income. We raised OAS, we raised GIS, and we're going to continue to do that. And one of the things that Mark Kearney is committed to, hopefully I get another question so I can recognize that. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bryan. Thank you for
I'm trying to stay on time.
I appreciate that. The audience does as well, right? Everyone plays by the rules of the clock, and we're grateful for it. So, Jose, you have the last word on this one.
Unfortunately, in communities like Cambridge, what we're seeing is in emergency shelters and drop-in centers, the most growing and fastest growing demographic are seniors. Right now, in the affordability crisis that we're in, there's not just enough money for seniors who live on a fixed income to pay rent, buy food, and pay for medication. I was actually talking to somebody on Sunday, and he said, I'm doing okay in life. I worry about my father, who has a cheap place to call home, but I dread the phone call of when somebody says, hey, we're going to have to raise his rent. And so the question was, what can we do as your elected official? Well, it's what the NDP started in dental care, in pharmacare, in providing protections and supports for seniors, but also in the next legislature, making sure that groceries are affordable, making sure that we expand pharmacare, and making sure that the dental care program is enshrined.
Thank you, Jose. Yep, Dan.
Thank you. It's 7:45, where we have 5 more questions that came in by email from residents, but we're committed to the timing. We want to turn now to questions from the audience, and for 45 minutes until 8:30. So think of your questions, and the way this is going to work is, where's George? George is walking around the back with a handheld microphone, and he's going to stand in the center aisle waiting until Scott picks somebody, right? So, Scott, you can ask the questions, and then at random, just pick anyone you like. And whoever, so don't bother lining up, that won't work. Don't worry, don't line up, don't worry about that. So he'll go up and down the aisle, and when that question is asked, then the candidates have the same opportunity to respond, and then you can go to the next question at random from a hand up. So if you're selected, we just ask you to go to the center aisle where George is, and he will look after the microphone and get your question to the candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. See, George told me to get everyone to line up, so this is democracy in action right now. This is deliberation, discussion, and now we have the best system in place. So, if you put your hands up and I point to you, then go to the back. The first one, I think it was, yep, you at the back, sorry. Yep, just one at a time. You had your hand up first. And again, I ask everyone, please keep your questions to 1 minute. And if you do go over 1 minute, I will have to interrupt and just say time. And to keep your questions respectful. Thank you.
Cambridge should vote for the casino. You know why? Windsor Casino spent their own money for the roads, the subways, and for to come out taxpayers' money. So the $8 raised, and they should have voted for the casino. Thank you.
I guess if I may piggyback on that, what would innovative ways to create federal funding be that haven't been thought of yet by federal parties? We'll go Bryan, Jose, Lux, and then the next question asked, we'll start with Jose, and then we'll move on to Lux, and we'll continue in the clockwise fashion. Bryan?
Thank you. I'll start with the original question. I think it's really important to recognize that local decisions are made locally, they're not made in Ottawa. And I think it's important to respect those as well. In terms of new ways to develop revenue in Canada, I'm not an economist, but I know a pretty good one. And I think that he is going to be the right person for Canada right now, and that's of course Prime Minister Mark Carney. This is a person who has had to rise to several challenges. Not just rise to the challenge of the economic downturn in 2008, 2009, helping Canada get through that under a Conservative government, but taking on the responsibility of being the first non-UK resident to be the Governor of the Bank of England, and to help them navigate through that crisis of Brexit. I believe he's ready to stand up and rise to the challenge of Donald Trump, because that's what's in front of us right now. And I'm out of time, but thank you so much.
Thanks, Bryan. Jose?
So when we look at getting government revenue, when we look at local decisions and the role of a member of parliament, the question goes back to who's going to benefit the most. And so as a New Democrat and as someone who's running to be your next member of parliament, my fight is to make sure that working and middle-class families are benefiting from the decisions that are made, be it at the local level, be it at the federal level, and to make sure that revenue is used for our community, whatever level it is that it comes from.
Thanks, Jose. Lux?
Yeah, I just want to jump back to the point of local decisions being made locally. The Green Party does not have party whips. I don't know if any of you know what that means, but it means that the Green Party members can vote how they want. Both of these parties do. They have to vote the way their party tells them to. They have to stand up and say yes when the Liberal Party says yes, or no when the NDP say no. The Green Party doesn't have that. If you want a local voice that can actually represent you, vote Green. I can do what the community wants me to, and that's just how the Green Party is. Thanks.
It's May the 1st before my benefits are actually paid for, and I'm diabetic. So I had to spend hundreds of dollars out of my own pocket to cover that. And I want to know if any of you parties are going to maybe advocate to fix that, because it's still a problem for us that have birthdays near the beginning of the month. So.
Thank you. Great question. And you stuck another 1 minute time limit. So we'll turn to Jose first.
Thank you for the question and happy belated birthday. Part of what we have been fighting for, and we passed pharmacare legislation. Unfortunately, we are in a province where the provincial government hasn't signed on to pharmacare legislation yet. But so part of the pharmacare deal, and it deals directly with diabetes medication, is to tackle just that question that you asked, is to make sure that people are covered, regardless of income, for the medications that they need from the government. And so, to your point, yes, that is what we are fighting for in Ottawa as New Democrats. We just need to make sure that the government federally is able to work with the provinces and sign the deals provincially, so that people in Cambridge can start seeing the results of law that is already legislation and law in this land.
Thanks, Jose. Lux?
I'm just going to keep it short and say what he said. The Green Party is also in favor of a national pharmacare plan.
Fair enough. All right, thank you. Bryan?
Thank you. I think we're not going to have much space between the three of us on this issue. We agree, and that's why working with the NDP, we passed a universal pharmacare program starting with contraception and diabetic medication. And I've had a lot of questions at the doors. I've knocked on literally thousands of doors over the last year getting ready for this campaign, and a lot of people ask me, why did you start with that? I'm going to send them to you, because I honestly, it was a question, and the cost, the overwhelming cost of diabetic medication has skyrocketed. And so it was an easy choice. It was an easy choice. But what I want everybody to understand is this is the beginning of this program. We need the provinces to sign on. We needed them to feel comfortable to sign on. If we threw everything at the kitchen sink at them, it would have been dead in the water. So we're looking at obviously a progression to not just have contraception and diabetic medication, but other pharmaceuticals very soon to be able to move forward. And quite frankly, the province of Ontario this was not an issue in the campaign just a couple months ago, and it should have been.
Thanks, Bryan. Going back out to the audience, I do see someone that's familiar with this. Marjorie, you did have your hand up there.
Forgive me for not standing. We have a drug crisis on our hands, and our provincial government has closed down our CTS sites. I know there's a program and a certificate from the federal government, but it comes with absolutely no operational funds. How can you help us get our CTS sites back?
So Lux, this one goes to you first. How can we help you get the CTS sites back? I don't know that I have the exact answer to that one. I'm not going to pretend that I do, but the Green Party is very much in favor of supporting CTS sites and bringing that funding back as best we can. We know that substance abuse is a public health issue, it's not a criminal one, so we need these CTS sites. And the Green Party stands with science, and stands with the numbers, and stands with the professionals. And they say that we need these CTS sites in Cambridge. The Green Party stands to help bring those back. Thanks.
Bryan?
I would echo Lux's comments there around the need to listen to the experts in the room. They're the ones that are putting their hands up very, very loudly right now, saying people are going to die. And look, this is a crisis across the country. I remember when I was first elected, I was hearing about this from my colleagues in British Columbia. And the health minister of the time, the very first piece of legislation that was put forward, the very first funding announcement that was put forward in the first week we were in office in December 2015 was $115 million to deal with this growing crisis in British Columbia. By the time we came back in January, we had already started to see the first deaths here in Cambridge. And we know we've lost far too many people to this incredible scourge across Canada, and we need to continue to focus on it and listen to the experts.
Thanks, Bryan. Jose?
Unfortunately, in Cambridge, it's not the fact that after closing CTS sites, people are going to die. Experts are raising their hands and yelling at us and saying people are dying already.
Yes.
That is the reality that I see at work every single day. And we don't have a provincial government or municipal government that cares or takes a minute to listen to the expert and the needs of the community members that they're supposed to represent. So in terms of the federal government's work in this, the federal government has legislation, and it's something called UPHMS, Urgent Public Health Need Site. If there's an urgent public health need, I don't know what other thing would be classified as a more urgent public health need than the opioid crisis. And so we need to work with agencies, and there are agencies across the region of Waterloo that have UPHMS sites in them, working right now. And so we need to make sure that we can expand those sites to different agencies, but also find ways to provide funding and operational costs to keep people alive in Cambridge today.
Thanks, Jose. Go to this side of the room now, trying to equal sides. Got the gentleman in the front in the red. There are a lot of hands that shoot up, which is great. It's wonderful to see, it really is.
Over the last years, we've heard of numerous cases of tax evasion on the part of industries and individuals. We have the KPMG scandal, we have the Panama Papers that all identify Canadian, wealthy Canadian corporations and individuals who have avoided taxes. We've also discussed here things like the elderly, where they can't afford to live in their house. This, in my opinion, could all be addressed and really needs to be addressed in a democratic country to have tax reform, fair taxation. And I would like to know your opinion on this and whether you would push for this in your respective government.
Thank you. We'll back around to the front, so we'll start with Bryan. Thank you. Thank you for the question, sir. And listen, one of the things that our government did when we took over is we stopped using the CRA to attack people that they didn't agree with. We saw that, you know, being from the nonprofit sector, we got briefed on this. It's like, whatever you do, don't put a lawn sign out there. We need to make sure that the CRA is independent, that they are fully funded to make sure that they can actually deal with those evaders. We know that we stop going after the small potatoes, if you will, and start going after the bigger ticket issues. The other issue too, though, that we need to focus on is recognizing the need to make sure we have enough people in that public service. We have seen progressively over the last 30 years, fewer and fewer folks in that role. We cannot ask them to do the big job of what you're talking about without making sure we have enough people in those roles to effectively do that job.
Thanks, Bryan. Jose?
And to the point of, we need to make sure that there's enough people to do the work. We have seen in this election campaign already promise of cuts, and the cuts means there's less public and civil servants, which means the CRA has less funds and less workers and less people to tackle the crisis. The question of tax evasion also comes down to who's going to fight for, you know, working and middle class families and who's going to fight for corporations. Because when we have a system where people can put money in offshore accounts or commit fraud and tax evasion, we need to understand that it's the government's responsibility to create legislation to stop that and make sure that there is a process in place to find the individuals and make sure that the money that was sent away or for some reason taxes that weren't paid are paid back to the government.
Thanks, Jose. Lux?
Yeah, the Green Party platform this time around has a one line that just simply says tax the rich, and that's part of the platform. I'm going to read you a little something here because I don't want to mess it up. But the Green Party wants to take on a big step in tax reform by eliminating all federal income taxes on earnings under $40,000. That means real immediate relief for millions of Canadians who are struggling just to get by, especially renters, young workers, and families facing record inflation. This isn't just a tax cut, it's a $50 billion reinvestment into local communities, helping small business, creating jobs, and giving people the breathing room they deserve. We'll pay for this by making the wealthiest Canadians and big corporations finally pay their fair share without cutting public services. This is what real economic transformation looks like. Thanks.
Thank you, Lux. I'll go to the back room. There's a gentleman waving in a blue checkered shirt.
Thank you, Scott. My question is, what you will do about Bill 21 and how you're going to crack down on genocide happening in Rohingya, Palestine, and Islamophobia?
This one first, I believe, is Jose. I'm almost losing track of who goes next. Just to, if I can absolutely provide context.
Jose's benefit, I think C21 is actually a bill in Quebec. Is that the one you're talking about? Because there's a very different C21 in the federal government. But
So we are seeing a rise of Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-Palestinian sentiment. And so in tackling issues like that, Jagmeet Singh has stood up against Bill 21. And it's not about the line that he used as someone who wears a turban. It's not about what's on your head, it's about what's in your heart. And so when we look at tackling racism and discrimination in all forms, we have to come together, and that includes making sure that anti-Palestinian racism is included in the Canadian Human Rights Code, to take that step to make sure that we are supportive of our neighbors, but we're also fighting to stop what we're seeing in the United States to coming from Canada.
Thanks, Jose. Lux? Look, I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure what Bill C-21 is. If you'd like an actual good answer from me, feel free to email me. It's luxem.burgess@greenparty.ca, and I don't mind looking up that information, giving you an actual answer from the Green Party. I'm not 100% familiar with that. I'm sure Bryan is going to educate us all. But yeah, feel free to email me if you'd like an actual Green Party answer.
I'll do my level best, Lux. Thanks, Lux. C-21 is the most recent iteration of a bill that has seen a number of different versions over the last 20 years in Quebec. And it is a shield, in my opinion. And I'm not a Quebec member of Parliament, and my Quebec colleagues may feel very differently about what I'm about to say. But I see it as a shield for racism. I see it as a shield for discrimination. I see it as a shield to vilify the other. And I don't think it belongs in Canada. Canada is strong because of its diversity, not in spite of it. And we have to all recognize that. I'm looking at an incredibly diverse group of people here, of all ages and of all creeds. And that makes me incredibly proud. And I think that we need to speak out against C-21 and bills like it, but we also have to let the province figure that out on their own a little bit. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryan. Go to the back of the room. Yep, at the very far. Yep, waving your hands.
Since 2023, Canada has brought in only 195 refugees from Sudan and only 300 from Palestine. Compared to this, nearly 300,000 Ukrainian refugees were granted asylum in Canada in 2023 to 2024. How will you help to ensure Canada does not discriminate refugee grants based on race or skin color or different resources that are available, but on just humanitarian grounds alone?
Thank you. Lux, or come to you first on this one.
Sure. Yeah, the Green Party supports strategic increase in immigration levels, especially in rural and underserved areas, to address workforce shortages and revitalize communities. We also recognize the importance of family reunification and advocate for faster processing times. Additionally, we believe in protecting refugee and asylum seekers by ensuring a fair and humane process. I guess to address your specific point, as your MP, I would very much work to even out that immigration difference and support immigration from the countries that you mentioned, for sure.
Thank you, Lux. Bryan?
Thank you for the question. An incredibly well thought out and asked question. This is critical. We know that the crisis, there are several crises around the world. One that I'm keenly aware of as well is in Syria. We very quietly, we lost over 22,000 people in Syria last week, and I bet most of the people in this room did not hear that news. This crisis that we're seeing, whether it's the war in Ukraine, whether it's Gaza, whether it's Syria, whether it's countless others, we have to recognize our role and responsibility as Canadians and the commitments that we have made and the treaties that we have signed to effectively support refugees coming to Canada and supporting them. We've done this time and time again over our history, and it has been an absolute blessing. You go back to the 70s and 80s with the Vietnamese that came to Canada. Their economic impact, just to put it not too blunt a point, their economic impact was 2 to 1 the average Canadian. We need to recognize the value that they bring to the table, and we need to make sure that we help as many people as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. Jose?
Thank you for the question. And in the face of the genocide that's going on in Gaza right now, we need to ask ourselves, and we're all running to represent you in the House of Commons, and ask what is our government doing to uphold human rights, to give people their dignity and the ability for them to think about having survival and a safe place to go home. And so we have, I believe we all saw it when I was impacted at work, when hundreds of people were left outside, refugees were left outside in a Toronto hotel that was being used as a shelter, and they had to sleep on the streets. And so it is the responsibility of the Government of Canada to make sure that our immigration policies and the refugees that we're bringing in are being given the opportunity to start a new life in this beautiful country that we call home, but also that we are addressing issues of structural racism in certain systems that we see in the federal government.
Thank you, Jose. Turn to the audience. Yep, I see a hand shot up here. And we'll go back around to the other side.
Thank you for this opportunity. The Canadian government issues permits for the export of weapons, parts, and components, along with military and security technology to Israel, both directly and via the United States. The Canadian military and defense industry also purchases Israeli weapons and parts, many of which are, quote, field tested on Palestinians, meaning Canada is directly funding Israel's war efforts and economy, making Canada complicit in Israel's ongoing atrocities. Will you work to end Israel's genocidal campaign on Palestinians by supporting a two-way arms embargo on Israel? And will you address Canada's indirect arms export to Israel via third-party countries such as the US?
Brian? Thank you for the question. My position on the conflict in Gaza is very public. It is over social media. My messaging has gone out. It's been very clear. In fact, it didn't just start with this most recent conflict. It started in October. It started in, I believe, September of 2021, when I was the first member of Parliament, not just in this region, but in Canada, to call for a ceasefire when conflict grew at that point. We need to recognize that, and I do not want to get in an argument with the questioner, but we do not send weapons to Israel. We do not. We don't. I was the parliamentary secretary for the Minister of National Defense. We do not send weapons to Israel. This needs to be understood. And I voted in favor of an arms embargo in the House of Commons. That passed. What is being asked of me right now is to sign a petition. What's being asked of me is to make a statement that is somebody else's words. I do not sign petitions. That is something that I've held dear in my time in office, but my words are clear on my social media for anybody to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Jose?
Thank you for the question. And New Democrat Foreign Affairs critic Heather McPherson was one of the first people to stand up in the House of Commons to ask for a two-way arms embargo, to ask for a lasting ceasefire, and to ask for organizations like UNRWA to be given the opportunity to provide aid to people who right now do not have access to water, do not have access to hospitals, do not have access to roads. And so in the face of the genocide in Gaza, we need to continue the two-way arms embargo. And we also need to understand that whether we sell weapons to Israel or not, it is our responsibility as Canadians, in the face of what we're seeing in the United States, to actually build ways for us to grow our economy in Canada. So that means, Lindsay Matheson put out Bill C-300, which is the Made in Canada Act. So instead of us working with organizations in the United States, we actually build stuff here.
Thank you, Jose. Lux?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I absolutely support a two-way arms embargo with Israel. The Green Party condemns all acts of violence against civilians, whether by state or non-state actors, and we call for an immediate ceasefire and unhindered humanitarian access to those in need. The Green Party supports ending the occupation of Palestinian territories and calls on Canada to take a balanced, principled approach that promotes peace, justice, and accountability. Only through dialogue, diplomacy, and mutual respect can a real lasting peace be achieved. Sorry for me reading that, but I just wanted to make sure I got that right for you, and I very much support you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to this side of the room. There's a gentleman there in a white, and it looks like a blue checkered shirt. You get your hand up for quite some time. Thanks, sir.
I just want to thank you for your courage and for standing up for all of us, for starters. And then my question is, it's great to hear what all the parties here think. I just wonder where the Conservative Party is.
I don't want to give 1 minute to we'll move right along in the interest of time. I'd like to...
I'd like to answer.
The candidates want to answer. So, whose turn is it? I'm losing track. It is Jose's turn. 1 minute on the empty stool.
I appreciate the question and we're all feeling it. And just last week, it was the same thing. If you watch the Rogers TV debate, you're going to see an empty podium. In a time where the country is polarized, in the time where we are being threatened directly by what used to be our closest ally, it is the responsibility of people who want to represent you to show up. That's just the first basic level of people seeking this position. I don't know where the Conservative Party candidate is. I saw her earlier today, actually, to the grant. She decided that it wasn't worth her time to talk to you. And that's unfortunate for no other reason other than you deserve better. For no reason other than in a time where our political climate is so hostile, we must be able to take care of one another and have conversations with one another. I'm not saying that we would agree on much if she were here, but I am saying that we deserve to hear voices and be a community together again.
Thank you, Jose.
Lux?
I'm not sure if any of you have noticed this yet, but I'm not very good at this. I'm here tonight because I want to be a voice for your community, and I want to be here representing the Green Party. And the fact that the Conservatives can't even show up and make an attempt like I'm trying, it just speaks volumes. They need to be here. We need to hear their voice, otherwise, what's the point? That's the point of a democracy. You're all here to listen to us, we're all here to speak to you. And it's unacceptable that the Conservatives aren't here. Thanks.
Thank you, Lux. Bryan?
Lux, I don't know the luck I'm having with the microphone. Lux, you are a lot better at this than I was in 2011. I can assure you of that. And yes, give it up for it. I've been doing this since 2011. I know we don't like talking about that election very much, but I've been doing this for now 14 years. And I, in that time, have never missed an opportunity to talk to people of my riding. It comes with the territory. And I want to take the last 30 seconds of my time to talk to anybody in this room and anybody that watches this after the fact that might be considering voting for the Conservative candidate. If you had a job to give, whether it's this job, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's a small business that you own, if somebody refused to give you their resume and show up for the interview, would you give them a second chance? No, you wouldn't. You'd move on. That's what we are facing right now. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. That was a great question. Thank you very much. Addressing the elephant in the room. I'm getting 12 people pointing at the gentleman in the denim shirt, so democracy rules today.
Okay. The U.S. is now our enemy. 51st state jokes are common down there. We used to be partners with the U.S. in security. How would your party develop safe sovereignty security for Canada, and please include your use of nuclear weapons?
All right, thank you. First up on this one is Lux.
Yeah, to your last point, the Green Party has long been against nuclear weapons. I don't think I need to speak too much about that. Yeah, our closest neighbor is no longer our closest ally. It's as simple as that. We need to stand up for ourselves, and that means supporting Canadian industries and securing our borders, particularly in the Arctic. That's something that the Green Party has very much put a stamp on in this platform. Making sure that our economy works for us, not just big corporations. And that means strengthening our relationships with other democracies. If we can't look south of the border anymore, then we need to look elsewhere. That could be the EU, that could be Australia, that could be South Korea, Japan. But if our closest neighbor isn't going to be our closest friend anymore, we need to look elsewhere and find other ways to build our economy. Let's be real, cyber threats and other economic pressures are growing. The US threat is real. There's media out there that Donald Trump keeps saying over and over again that we're the 51st state. And if he keeps saying that, eventually people are going to start believing it in Canada, and we need to push back and fight back against that. Thanks.
Thank you, Lux. Bryan?
Thank you very much for the question, sir. And you're not wrong that we need to reimagine our relationship with the United States. As the parliamentary secretary in a number of different roles over the last number of years, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of my counterparts in the United States, and I can tell you, for the last number of months, I've been getting text messages from them, one, apologizing, and two, suggesting they don't know what's going on. And I'm talking about state and U.S. senators and congresspeople. We know that we know that the U.S. is not our enemy. We know that the White House, the current administration, needs to recognize that. We are not the target. All of these tariffs, all of these challenges are not necessary. We dealt with this for 4 years under Trump in the first iteration, and we know that we dealt with that very well. We had the steel and aluminum tariffs then. We had to reimagine our relationship with them then. We can do it again. We have the experience to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. Jose?
So when we talk about our relationship with the US, first and foremost, as you talked about safety, we need to ensure that our government is ready to ensure Arctic sovereignty. When we look at security, and the United States hasn't realized this yet, as Bryan has mentioned, it is actually more dangerous for them to not be as close of an ally in security with us, because they won't have the intel and the information that they need if something were to go awry. If a plane were to fly over, it used to be Canadian intelligence that was given. They don't have that anymore. And so we need to strengthen Arctic sovereignty. We need to increase border safety, and we need to reimagine our economy, work with other countries, and understand that unfortunately what used to be our closest ally is no longer.